Get those handcuffs away from my daddy! 8-year-old Sierra screamed, her small body trembling as she stood between her father and the police officer. Tears streamed down her face, her pigtails quivering with each sob. He didn't do anything wrong. We're just playing. The crowd at Oakwood Park fell silent. Phones recorded from every direction as Officer Barrett towered over the terrified child, handcuffs dangling from his fingers, his face a mask of cold authority. 6-year-old Jordan buried his face in his father's leg, whimpering. David Washington stood perfectly still, his hands raised slightly, eyes locked on the officers. His voice remained calm, despite the storm raging inside him. Please, not in front of my children. How had a perfect Saturday morning come to this? Just 40 minutes earlier, they'd been laughing, playing, making memories. Now his children were witnessing their father being treated like a criminal, all because a stranger couldn't believe these children belonged to him. The day had started so differently. The sun beamed down on the newly renovated Oakwood Park as David parked his car in the nearly empty lot. It was early, just after 9 a.m., and he'd planned it that way, hoping to give Sierra and Jordan some time to play before the weekend crowds arrived. We've got the whole day, guys. What do you want to do first? David smiled as he helped Jordan with his sneaker laces. Sierra's eyes lit up as she pointed toward the spiral slide. That one, Daddy? It goes around and around like a tornado. Swings first. You promised to push me super high, Jordan countered, jumping up and down. David laughed, the sound warm and rich. It had been weeks since he'd heard his own laughter. The divorce had been finalized just 3 months ago, and between the move to a new house and starting his new position, these precious weekend visitations felt like gulps of air to a drowning man. How about we take turns? Sierra gets the slide first, then we hit the swings for Jordan. He knelt down, meeting their eyes. Deal? Deal, they shouted in unison. As David settled onto a bench to watch Sierra climb the ladder to the slide, he didn't notice the woman sitting under a nearby oak tree. Karen Whitfield narrowed her eyes, watching as David checked his phone before returning his attention to the children. Something about this man didn't sit right with her. He was too well dressed for a simple trip to the park, expensive-looking jeans, a polo shirt that seemed tailored to his athletic build. And those children? They were lighter-skinned than him, much lighter. Karen straightened her designer sunglasses and pulled out her phone, pretending to scroll through social media while secretly recording the trio. This park was in her neighborhood. As HOA president, she considered it her personal responsibility to monitor who used their facilities. Sierra squealed with delight as she spun down the slide, and David clapped enthusiastically. Great job, baby girl. Now let's get your brother on those swings. As David guided his children toward the swing set, Karen stood up and followed, staying about 15 feet behind. When David began pushing Jordan on the swing, she stepped closer, her phone still recording. Excuse me, Karen called out, her voice carrying that particular tone, the one that suggested authority without any actual right to it. David turned, his hand still on Jordan's back as he continued pushing. Yes? Can I help you? Karen moved closer, her gaze flicking between David and the children. I haven't seen you in this neighborhood before. Do you live around here? The question hung in the air, its implication clear. David's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, a tightening around the eyes, a slight clench of his jaw. He'd been through this before, too many times. We're just enjoying the park, he replied evenly. It's a beautiful day. Karen wasn't satisfied. This is a private neighborhood park. It's for residents only. This was a lie. The park was city property, open to anyone. But Karen had found this tactic useful in the past. Sierra, sensing the tension, stopped her swing and moved closer to her father, her earlier joy evaporating. Jordan, still swinging, remained oblivious. Actually, David said calmly, this is a public park, maintained by city taxes. He turned back to push Jordan, trying to end the conversation. Karen's face flushed. She stepped directly into David's line of sight, holding her phone up now without pretense. "I'm just concerned about the children. They don't look like they're with you." The words landed like a slap. Sierra's eyes widened, and she clutched her father's leg. David felt heat rising in his chest, but kept his voice measured. "These are my children. Please stop recording us and let us enjoy our morning." By now, other parents at the park had noticed the confrontation. A couple pushing a stroller slowed their walk, watching. A father helping his toddler down a slide glanced over with concern. Karen raised her voice. "I'm just being cautious, you understand. There are protocols for keeping our community safe." "Dad," Sierra whispered, tugging at David's hand, "why is that lady mad at us?" David knelt down. "She's not mad, sweetie. There's just a misunderstanding. Everything's fine." But Karen had already stepped away, her phone to her ear. "Yes, I'd like to report a suspicious individual at Oakwood Park with 2 children who don't appear to be his. I'm concerned for their safety." David overheard her words and felt a cold wave wash over him. He gently stopped Jordan's swing. "Hey, buddy, how about we go try that cool climbing wall?" "But I was just getting really high," Jordan protested. "I know, but Sierra's waiting for her turn to play with you on the climbing wall. Remember how we talked about taking turns?" David guided his children toward the other side of the playground, trying to create distance from Karen while keeping the situation calm for his kids. Sierra looked back over her shoulder, her face clouded with confusion and the beginning traces of fear. 20 minutes passed in tense silence. David helped his children navigate the climbing wall, trying to maintain a normal, happy atmosphere despite the knot in his stomach. He noticed more parents watching now, some whispering to each other, others pointedly moving their children to different equipment. The police cruiser pulled into the parking lot with no sirens, but its presence was immediately noticed by everyone at the park. 2 officers emerged. Officer Barrett, a stocky white man with a crew cut and sunglasses, and Officer Ramirez, a younger Hispanic officer who scanned the park with a more measured expression. Karen immediately approached them, pointing toward David and the children. Officer Barrett nodded and started walking briskly toward the climbing wall, while Officer Ramirez followed at a slightly slower pace. David saw them coming and felt his heart rate accelerate. He'd promised Sierra and Jordan a fun day without stress. Now this. "Hey, kids," he said quietly. "Some police officers are coming to talk to us. Everything's okay, but I need you both to stay calm and let me do the talking, all right?" Sierra's eyes filled with tears. "Did we do something wrong, Daddy?" "No, baby girl, not at all. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, that's all." Officer Barrett reached them first, positioning himself between David and the playground exit. "Sir, we've received a call about a suspicious individual with children. I'm going to need to see some identification." David nodded, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "My wallet is in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it now." "Go ahead," Barrett said, his hand resting casually on his holster. David produced his driver's license and handed it over. "These are my children, Sierra and Jordan. We're just having a day at the park." Officer Barrett examined the license. "This address is in Lakewood Heights, not this neighborhood." As I tried explaining to that woman, David gestured toward Karen, who was now standing with her arms crossed next to Officer Ramirez. "This is a public park. We're allowed to be here." Sierra began to cry silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. Jordan stood frozen, his eyes wide with confusion as he stared at the officer's badge. Officer Barrett crouched down to eye level with the children. "Hey there, is this man your daddy?" Before either child could answer, David intervened. "Officer, with all due respect, please don't question my children without my consent. They're already frightened." Barrett straightened up, his expression hardening. "Sir, I'm trying to ensure these children's safety." "By traumatizing them?" David asked, his calm facade beginning to crack. By now, a small crowd had gathered at a respectful distance. Among them was a woman in her early 40s with a thoughtful expression. Diane Rodriguez watched the scene unfold with professional interest. Something about the well-dressed father seemed familiar to her, but she couldn't quite place him. "Daddy," Jordan whispered, tugging at David's hand. "I want to go home." "Me too," Sierra added, wiping away tears. Officer Barrett turned to his partner. "Ramirez, would you take the children over to the bench? I need to speak with Mr. Washington alone." David stiffened. "Number my children stay with me." "Sir, this will go much easier if you cooperate," Barrett insisted. "I am cooperating. I've provided identification. I've answered your questions. But I will not be separated from my children based on a false report." Officer Ramirez finally spoke up. "Maybe we can all move to the bench together? No need to separate anyone." Barrett shot his partner a look but grudgingly agreed. "Fine, let's all move to the bench." As they walked, Diane slipped away from the crowd and pulled out her phone. She stepped behind a tree and dialed quickly, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. At the bench, Officer Barrett continued his questioning. "Do you have any documentation proving these are your children? Birth certificates, custody papers?" David's patience was wearing thin. "Officer, do you ask every parent at this park for birth certificates, or just the black ones?" Barrett's face reddened. "Sir, we're responding to a call." "A call based on racial profiling," David interrupted. "My children are biracial. Their mother is white. That doesn't make me any less their father." Karen, who had edged closer to listen, interjected. "I was just being cautious. Children's safety is everyone's responsibility." Sierra buried her face against David's side, her small shoulders shaking. Jordan had gone completely silent, a reaction that worried David more than tears. "Officer," David said, his voice now carrying a different tone, one of authority and measured control. "I understand you're doing your job, but I need you to understand something as well. This incident is exactly why I—" "Sir," Officer Barrett cut him off. "For everyone's safety, I'm going to need you to stand up slowly and place your hands behind your back while we sort this out." A collective gasp went through the gathering crowd. David looked down at his terrified children, then back at the officer in disbelief. "You're going to handcuff me in front of my children, based on nothing but a racist assumption?" Officer Ramirez shifted uncomfortably. "Barrett, I don't think that's necessary." "Standard procedure when we can't verify custody," Barrett insisted, though this was not in fact standard procedure at all. As Barrett reached for his handcuffs, Sierra suddenly leapt to her feet. "Get those handcuffs away from my daddy," she screamed, her small body shaking with each sob as she positioned herself between her father and the officer. Officer Barrett hesitated, clearly unprepared for a child's intervention. His hand remained suspended in midair, handcuffs gleaming in the morning sunlight. "Sierra, sweetie," David said softly, gently moving his daughter behind him. "It's okay. Let me handle this." But Sierra was beyond consolation, years beyond her age in that moment. "You always tell us to stand up to bullies, Daddy," she sobbed, her voice carrying across the now silent playground. Officer Ramirez knelt down to Sierra's level. "No one's going to hurt your dad, honey. We're just talking." "Then why do you need those?" Sierra pointed at the handcuffs, her small finger trembling. Karen pushed forward through the gathering crowd. "This is ridiculous. The police are just doing their job. If he has nothing to hide—" "Ma'am," Officer Ramirez cut her off. "Please step back and let us handle this." David placed his hands on his children's shoulders. "I'm not placing my hands behind my back or being separated from my children. If you feel you need to detain me, you'll need to explain to your superiors why you handcuffed a father in front of his traumatized children based solely on an unsubstantiated call." The tension in the air was palpable. Parents had gathered their own children close, some filming, others looking away in discomfort. Two teenagers on skateboards had stopped to watch, their phones raised to capture whatever happened next. Officer Barrett's radio crackled. He turned slightly, listening to a voice that was too low for others to hear. His expression shifted subtly. Meanwhile, Diane Rodriguez had returned from making her call. She stood at the edge of the crowd, watching intently, her hand still on her phone, as if expecting another call. "Look," Barrett said finally, lowering the handcuffs but not putting them away. "We've got a situation here with conflicting information. I need to verify these children are in your legal custody." "And I've told you they are my children," David replied firmly. "I've shown you my ID. The children have confirmed I'm their father. At what point does this interrogation end?" Jordan, who had been frighteningly quiet, suddenly spoke up. "My daddy teaches me chess, and he makes pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, and he knows how to fix my bike when the chain comes off." His little voice was shaky but determined. "He's the best daddy ever." Several onlookers visibly softened at the child's simple declaration of trust and love. Even Officer Barrett seemed momentarily taken aback. "Sir," Officer Ramirez said, addressing David with more respect than his partner had shown, "do you have any photos of you with the children? Maybe on your phone?" David nodded slowly, reaching carefully for his pocket again. "I have hundreds." He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and opened his photo gallery. "Here. Sierra's birth, Jordan's first steps, last Christmas, their first day of school this year." He swiped through images that clearly showed years of a loving family life. Officer Ramirez nodded, satisfied. "That seems pretty clear to me." But Barrett wasn't ready to concede. "Photos can be accessed from anyone's social media. I need something more official." "Like what?" David asked, exasperation finally breaking through his composed exterior. "Birth certificates, custody papers after the divorce. Something legal," Barrett insisted. "Who carries birth certificates to the park?" a voice called from the crowd. "Yeah, I've brought my kids here for years and never been asked for papers," another added. Karen stepped forward again. "I was just trying to protect—" "You were profiling me," David interrupted, looking directly at her. "Let's be honest about what's happening here." Sierra tugged at her father's hand. "Daddy, show them your special card, the one with the gold thing on it." David looked down at his daughter, then back at Officer Barrett with a measured gaze. "I had hoped to resolve this without that." Before he could reach for his wallet again, the sound of approaching vehicles drew everyone's attention. 3 black SUVs with government plates pulled into the parking lot, followed by an unmarked police car. The doors opened simultaneously and several figures emerged. Officer Barrett's radio crackled again, more urgently this time. He listened, his face draining of color. From the lead SUV, a distinguished older white man in a suit emerged. Chief of Police Richard Montgomery strode toward the playground with purpose, flanked by a woman in a blazer who carried herself with unmistakable authority. As they approached, Officer Ramirez straightened his posture. Barrett reluctantly put away his handcuffs. "Barrett, Ramirez," Chief Montgomery addressed them, his voice carrying across the park. "Would someone care to explain why I'm receiving calls about one of my officers threatening to handcuff the new police commissioner in front of his children?" The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Karen's mouth fell open. Officer Barrett stood frozen in place. "Police commissioner?" someone whispered loudly. "That's why he looked familiar," Diane Rodriguez said, stepping forward with her press credentials now visible. "Commissioner Washington took office just last month." David sighed, pulling his children close. "I wanted a quiet morning at the park with my kids, not this." He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a badge and ID card with the city seal and the words, "Police Commissioner," clearly visible. Chief Montgomery turned to David. "Commissioner Washington, I apologize for this incident. When Ms. Rodriguez called our office..." David nodded. "Thank you for coming, Chief. Though I was hoping to handle this situation within normal protocols." He looked pointedly at Officer Barrett. The same protocols that should apply to every citizen, regardless of their position or skin color. The woman in the blazer stepped forward. Commissioner Washington, I'm District Attorney Elaine Chen. This incident is exactly why your reform initiatives are so crucial for our department. Karen began backing away slowly, trying to blend into the crowd. David noticed and called out, Ms. Whitfield, isn't it? Please stay. This conversation concerns you too. Officer Barrett found his voice at last. Sir, Commissioner, I was simply responding to a call about suspicious activity. And what exactly was suspicious, Officer Barrett? David asked, his voice now carrying an unmistakable tone of authority. A father playing with his children on a Saturday morning? Before Barrett could answer, Sierra spoke up again. He was mean to my daddy, just because his skin is darker than ours. That's what you call racial profiling, right, Daddy? Like you talked about at dinner. The simple truth from a child's mouth hung in the air. Jordan nodded in agreement, clutching his father's hand. Chief Montgomery looked at Barrett. Officer, you're on administrative leave effective immediately, pending a full review of this incident. Karen finally spoke up, her voice no longer commanding but defensive. I was just trying to be careful. How was I supposed to know he was the police commissioner? You weren't, David replied calmly. And that's precisely the point. No black father should need to be a police commissioner to avoid being handcuffed in front of his children while playing at a park. The crowd had grown larger now, with some residents from nearby homes joining the parkgoers. Many nodded in agreement with David's words. District Attorney Chen turned to Karen. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a criminal offense. Making racially motivated false reports can additionally be charged as a hate crime in this state. Karen's face paled. But I wasn't. We'll be reviewing the body camera footage, Chen continued coolly. And it appears we have plenty of witnesses and cell phone recordings as well. Diane Rodriguez stepped forward, her reporter's instincts fully engaged. Commissioner Washington, would you be willing to make a statement about this incident and how it relates to your new community policing initiatives? David looked down at his children, both still clinging to him, their earlier joy completely forgotten. Not today. Today I'm just a father whose children have been traumatized. Any statements will come through official channels next week. He knelt down to Sierra and Jordan's level. I'm so sorry this happened, guys. How about we go get some ice cream and then head home? Jordan nodded eagerly, always ready for ice cream, but Sierra's face remained troubled. Are you in trouble, Daddy? Is the mean policeman going to take you away? No, sweetie, David assured her, his heart breaking at the fear in her eyes, a fear no child should have to feel about their parents' safety. No one's taking me anywhere. As David prepared to leave with his children, an older man approached from the crowd. He looked to be in his 70s, with kind eyes that had witnessed decades of history. Sir, he said to David, I've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years. My wife and I would be honored if you and your children would join us for our community picnic next Saturday. Right here, at this park. All three of you are welcome anytime. Several other parents stepped forward with similar invitations, a spontaneous gesture of community attempting to heal the wound that had been inflicted. David nodded gratefully. Thank you, perhaps we will. As they walked toward the parking lot, Sierra looked back at Officer Barrett, who stood rigidly beside Chief Montgomery, his career hanging in the balance. Daddy, she asked, will that officer learn to be better? David gazed down at his daughter, amazed by her capacity for hope, even after what she'd experienced. I don't know, baby girl, but that's why I took this job, to try and make sure officers like him either learn to be better or find another line of work. Just as they reached their car, they heard footsteps hurrying behind them. David turned, instantly alert, positioning himself between his children and whoever was approaching. It was Officer Ramirez, looking uncomfortable but determined. Commissioner Washington, he said, keeping a respectful distance. I wanted to apologize to you and your children. I should have intervened sooner when I saw which way things were going. I've been on the force for 2 years and I've seen this kind of thing before but never spoke up. David studied the young officer's face, seeing genuine remorse and perhaps something more. Potential. "What's your first name, Officer Ramirez?" David asked. "Miguel, sir." "Well, Miguel, speaking up is hard, but it's necessary. My office is implementing a new mentorship program starting next month. We need officers who understand the importance of community trust. You should apply." Ramirez nodded, a look of hope crossing his face. "I will, sir. Thank you." As Officer Ramirez walked away, Sierra tugged at her father's hand. "Is he one of the good ones, Daddy?" David watched Ramirez's retreating back. "He's trying to be, Sierra. And that's a start." The family finally got into their car, the morning's outing thoroughly derailed. As David started the engine, he caught sight of Karen Whitfield in his rearview mirror. She stood alone at the edge of the parking lot, District Attorney Chen handing her what appeared to be a citation. Justice, at least in this instance, was being served. But David took no pleasure in it, only a weary determination to ensure this wouldn't happen to another family, another father, another set of children who just wanted to play at the park on a beautiful Saturday morning. The following Monday morning, David Washington sat in his spacious office at City Hall, staring at a stack of incident reports. The events at Oakwood Park had been documented in excruciating detail. Officer Barrett's report, Officer Ramirez's separate statement, witness accounts, and a preliminary investigation summary from Internal Affairs. A knock at his door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he called. Chief Montgomery entered, closing the door behind him. "Just got off the phone with the mayor. The park incident is all over social media. There's already a hashtag, #, playing while black." David nodded wearily. "My ex-wife called yesterday. Sierra had nightmares Saturday night. Kept dreaming about her daddy being taken away in handcuffs." Montgomery winced. "I'm truly sorry, David. Barrett's been a problem for years, but his uncle is on the city council and that stops today," David interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. "Political connections can't shield officers who abuse their power. That's why I took this job, Richard." The chief nodded, taking a seat across from David. "The DA's office is moving forward with charges against Ms. Whitfield for filing a false report, and Barrett's administrative leave will likely become permanent once the review board sees the body cam footage." David tapped his pen against the desk thoughtfully. "I don't want Barrett fired, not yet." Montgomery's eyebrows shot up. "May I ask why?" "Because firing one officer doesn't change the culture. I want him to go through the new bias training program first. Make him face what he did, understand why it was wrong. If he can't learn from this, then yes, he's out. But if there's a chance he can change..." David trailed off. "You're a better man than I am," Montgomery admitted. "If someone had done that to my kids, I'd want his badge immediately." A knock interrupted them again. David's assistant poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, Commissioner, but there's a Ms. Rodriguez from Channel 8 News here. She's quite persistent." David checked his watch. "Tell her I have exactly 10 minutes. Diane Rodriguez entered carrying a small notebook rather than a camera crew. "Thank you for seeing me, Commissioner. I was hoping for a brief comment about Saturday's incident." "Off the record?" David asked. Diane hesitated, then nodded. "For now." "Then I'll tell you what I told my children afterward. What happened at that park was wrong on multiple levels. A father shouldn't be criminalized for parenting while black. But it happens every day to people who don't have my position or connections." Diane studied him. "Is that why you didn't immediately identify yourself to Officer Barrett? You could have ended the situation much sooner." "I shouldn't have to flash a badge to be treated with basic dignity and respect," David replied. "Neither should any other black parent." He paused. "But you didn't just recognize me at the park, did you? You knew exactly who I was." Diane smiled slightly. "I've been working on a series about community policing reform. Your appointment as commissioner was a major part of my research. I recognized you immediately but wanted to see how the situation would unfold naturally. Until you made that call. Until it became clear Officer Barrett was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed, she corrected. Some stories need intervention, Commissioner. David nodded. I'm grateful for that intervention, for my children's sake. He reached for a folder on his desk. This is the community policing initiative I'm launching next month. It addresses implicit bias, de-escalation training, community engagement, and accountability measures. I'd like to give you an exclusive when we announce it publicly. The incident at the park has given it new urgency. Diane accepted the folder with evident surprise. Thank you. I'll review it carefully. And Ms. Rodriguez, when you do run your story about Saturday, please focus on the larger issue, not just my personal experience. Thousands of black parents face similar situations without cameras or badges to protect them. That's exactly the angle I'm taking, she assured him. After Diane left, David turned back to Chief Montgomery. I want to meet with Officer Barrett and his union representative tomorrow, and I'd like to see Karen Whitfield as well, separately. Montgomery looked concerned. Are you sure that's wise? Probably not, David admitted, but necessary. The next morning, Officer Barrett sat stiffly in a chair across from David's desk, his union representative beside him, Chief Montgomery standing by the window. Do you understand why you're here, Officer Barrett? David asked, his tone professional. Barrett stared straight ahead. Yes, sir. The incident at Oakwood Park. The incident, David repeated softly. My 8-year-old daughter still can't sleep through the night because of the incident. My 6-year-old son asked me yesterday if police officers are going to take me away the next time we go to a park. Barrett shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. I've reviewed your service record, David continued. 12 years on the force, 5 complaints of excessive force, all involving black or Hispanic individuals, all dismissed. The union rep cleared his throat. Commissioner, if this is a disciplinary hearing, there are protocols. This isn't a hearing, David interrupted. This is a conversation. Officer Barrett, would you have approached a white father the same way you approached me? Barrett's jaw tightened. I was responding to a report of suspicious... Please answer the question, David said quietly. A long silence filled the room. Finally, Barrett spoke. Probably not, sir. The admission hung in the air. Thank you for your honesty, David said. Instead of termination, I'm offering you a choice. You can resign immediately, or you can complete our new comprehensive bias training program, work with a community mentor for 6 months, and transfer to our youth engagement division. Barrett looked up, clearly surprised. You're not firing me? I believe in second chances, Officer Barrett, but only for those willing to do the work of change. The union rep leaned over to whisper in Barrett's ear, but Barrett raised a hand to stop him. Why would you give me that chance after what happened? David leaned forward. Because my children asked me if you could learn to be better. I'd like to find out if they're right. Later that afternoon, Karen Whitfield sat in the same chair, clutching her designer purse, no lawyer at her side. Thank you for coming, Ms. Whitfield, David said. Do I have a choice? She asked, bitterness edging her voice. I'm facing charges because you didn't identify yourself properly. David regarded her calmly. The charges you're facing are because you made a false report based on racial bias, not because of who I am. Karen's eyes flashed. I was trying to protect children. Were you? David pulled out a folder. This contains reports of 7 previous calls you've made to police in the last 2 years, all about suspicious individuals in your neighborhood. All of those individuals were black or Hispanic. None resulted in actual crimes being discovered. Karen paled slightly. Ms. Whitfield, I didn't ask you here to shame you. I asked you here because I believe people can change. I'm not racist, she said automatically. I didn't say you were, David replied. But your actions that day were rooted in bias. You saw a black man with biracial children and immediately assumed something was wrong. Karen looked down at her hands. The DA is willing to drop the charges if you agree to perform community service at the West Side Community Center after-school program. It's in a predominantly black neighborhood. They need reading volunteers. Karen looked up, surprise evident on her face. That's it? Read to children? Learn their names, hear their stories, see their humanity, David said simply. It's not punishment, Ms. Whitfield. It's an opportunity for growth. Something in Karen's expression shifted slightly. Why are you doing this? You could push for maximum charges. Because my daughter asked me if the mean lady could learn to be nicer. I'd like to find out if she's right. 1 month later, David stood at a podium in Oakwood Park. Behind him, a colorful banner read, Community Unity Day. Hundreds of families from all over the city had gathered, a diverse crowd enjoying music, food, and activities. Thank you all for coming, David began. What happened in this park a month ago was painful for my family. But from that pain, we've created something positive. He gestured to a table where Officer Ramirez was helping children paint birdhouses. Our new Youth Engagement Officers program has already connected with over 200 children across the city. Sierra and Jordan stood proudly beside their father, holding a ribbon for the new playground equipment the city had installed. Today isn't about forgetting or overlooking the hard truths about bias in our community, David continued. It's about acknowledging them and then taking active steps toward healing and change. Among the crowd, David spotted a familiar face. Officer Barrett, not in uniform but in casual clothes, stood awkwardly at the edge of the gathering. He had chosen the training program over resignation. Whether he would complete it successfully remained to be seen, but he had taken the first step. Nearby, Karen Whitfield helped at a face painting station, carefully painting a butterfly on a little black girl's cheek. Her community service had evolved into regular volunteering. Small steps, but steps nonetheless. Diane Rodriguez stood with her camera crew, documenting the event for her ongoing series about community policing reform. As the speeches concluded and children rushed toward the playground, Sierra tugged at her father's hand. Daddy, can we go play now? David smiled down at his daughter. Absolutely, baby girl. Are you coming with us? Jordan asked, bouncing on his toes. I'll be right there, David promised. This park belongs to all of us. As David watched his children race toward the spiral slide, the same one that had brought such joy before everything unfolded, he felt a complex mixture of emotions. There was lingering pain, certainly. The incident had left scars that would take time to heal. But there was also hope. Sierra reached the top of the slide and waved frantically. Watch me, Daddy! Watch me! David raised his hand and waved back, his heart full. I'm watching, baby girl. I'm always watching. And as Sierra came spinning down in a blur of pink and purple, her laughter echoing across the park, the same park where she had once stood terrified between her father and a police officer, David knew that this was what progress looked like. Not perfect, not complete, but possible. Jordan tugged at his father's hand, pulling him toward the swings. Push me super high, Daddy. This time, as David pushed his son on the swing, no one questioned his right to be there. No one questioned his love for his children or their love for him. They were simply a family enjoying a beautiful day at the park, the very thing they had tried to do a month ago. It wasn't justice, exactly. True justice would mean this never happened in the first place, but it was a step in the right direction. And sometimes, David thought as his son's laughter joined the chorus of children's voices in the park, steps were all you could ask for. Sierra came running back from the slide, her face flushed with joy. This is the best day ever, Daddy. David scooped her up in his arms, her earlier fears nowhere to be seen, at least for this moment. Yes, baby girl. Yes, it is. In the distance, Officer Ramirez gave him a respectful nod. Karen Whitfield caught his eye briefly before looking away. Something like shame or perhaps reflection crossing her face. And somewhere in the crowd, Officer Barrett watched the interactions of the diverse families, perhaps seeing something he hadn't allowed himself to see before. Change was possible. Difficult, uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but possible. And that, David thought as he embraced his children in the golden afternoon sunlight, was worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Have you or someone you know ever witnessed being judged unfairly? Drop a comment below, share your story. Subscribe for more powerful stories of injustice and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.